BPM from stems from our friend Martin Broeren, who sent me a folder of audio files. I'm going to show you that folder, show you the live session where I dragged him in, show you what I did to him, and then how I got it back out over to the analog board. And what we're hearing right now is Martin's stereo mix. So my goal for this session is to make a mix that sounds like this, but a little bit better. And it's not like a competition or whatever. He didn't hire me for this. He's not even paying me for this, which is totally cool. He's letting us do this live on video. So we're gonna put Martin under the microscope and mix this track as soon as my live feed comes up so I can see your questions, see your comments, and hang out. So I didn't do a noon video today because I was doing some other stuff, but we're gonna have some fun with this one. I'm gonna be kind of in the flow with the music, but I'm happy to talk about anything related to EQ, compression, mixing, gain staging especially, and the decision-making process for how I work with stereo groups and all that kind of thing. So, click to expand. Okay, got audio coming in. I don't know if Martin's gonna actually catch this one. Might be a little late for all y'all folks in the EU, but it is what it is for this time zone. And here we go. So I just went into my Ableton world. Got my monitor levels up. And who's here? Say hi when you're here. Let me know how this sounds. Let me know you can hear everything so I can keep going. And let me unsolo this and bring up my mix. Oh, Stefan's here. Cool. Okay, so here's where I got so far. And you know me, the first thing I do is I make bus groups. But let me just show you, I wanna show you the files I had to start with for a specific reason. So here's a folder that Martin sent over. The track is called Broken. These are the file names, and hello. And you can see that it's really cool that every file is named with the instrument, bass lead, open hi-hat, rolls. I had to figure out what the rolls are. Those are like tigga 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 tigga, that kind of thing. Snare drum, white noise, all that kind of stuff. That makes it really easy for me. I love this format that I can tell what audio file it is. Believe it or not, that makes a huge difference. And then down at the bottom, the one called Broken is his mix, which is like a reference mix to tell me, here's what the track is supposed to sound like. And that's especially helpful for timing. Not, you know, I know kind of like what genre it is once I hear it and what the mix is supposed to kind of be like. But once in a while when you get stems, unfortunately, sometimes they don't all start at the same time. So if you're ever sharing a folder of stems, print a stereo mix of your mix and send that to the other person. So just in case they don't know exactly how things are supposed to line up, that'll let them hear like, okay, this sound comes in here, it goes over there, it stops there, whatever. You never know. It always helps to have that. Ian Campbell, Jeff Hayes, how you doing? Welcome. The thing that I didn't like was that there's the word broken, the date, and the word mixotexture before the file name. So when I dropped them into Ableton, it named all the tracks Broken, and I was like, okay, they're all named Broken. Also, when you're sending me a session, don't put the word mixotexture in there, because if I drop these samples in the wrong folder, they're gone. I don't know whose it is. I don't know where it came from. It says mixotexture. I didn't make it. You know, it's kind of confusing. I would rather have it say like Broeren. So like the perfect file name for me would be like clap, Broeren, Broken, and that's all. Because the date is going to be in the file, right? So I don't really need the date. But who cares? That's just file management, really not life and death. You have to deal with that all over the place in your world. So the first thing I did when I got all these was I dragged them into the session, and I did a little tap tempo to figure out the tempo because he didn't put the tempo in the title. Figured out 138 BPM. Okay, groovy. Then I went through and I labeled all my channels. So I took each audio file, and you can do something like this. Click on the file name, get the actual word in case you can't read it. Like instead of going like, oh, what file name is it? I'm going to drag it out to see the word kick right here. I didn't want to go through that process of dragging every one. So I'd click on the track, click on the audio file itself, read the word, whatever, then label my channels. That was really important so I know what's in the music, and then I put them into groups. So this one, the clickers, is super cool. This is like what makes the music go, right? Then I made a group of single hits, pretty self-explanatory: snares, claps, clap build, open hi-hats, and rides. Let's check that out in a section of the song where we have a lot of those. Interesting thing here is this sound. You hear that one? That's like a clap echo reverb. So we got the snare. And you know what techno sounds like, right? So, and this one is like the pressure. Tick, 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 tick. So when I was going through the drum group, you can see I have two Ableton groups from the drum instruments. The clickers, these two were both going in that fast-paced 16th note, tick, 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 kind of rhythm. So I put those as a pair to have them in one place so I could get them working. Everything else was single hits. I put them into a group so I could do whatever I want to do with stereo panning, have all those singles in a place. And then reverse effects, which were super cool. And these sound something like this. And I love the stop on the end of those, goes and stops really like with a sharp little stop. So those are, again, in my drum group with my buses. If you haven't worked with me before, what I do is I make new tracks at the end. So these ones were not in the original track count. I think there were 25 tracks or 24 stems. So I make one for all my mono, sub, bass sounds, one for my drums, one for my instruments. That way, when I'm mixing, I can easily mute everything else and work with only one element at a time. What's in this one? Oh, I forgot, right? It's dark blue. Go over here, dark blue. Turn up my headphones. Got kick drum. And I got this rumble kind of thing happening. I made the decision, those two are gonna be my low-end mono sounds. So I put those in one place so I can drop some EQ and compression on there, which I did over there. And then go to the next one. And now here, let me get a good, little bit of a longer chunk of sound with these single hits. I better turn on timing. I want to make a usable loop. That sounds cool. Okay. So the value of having all my sounds in one place in this stereo bus is that when I'm working on the drum group, I can mute all those, I can mute all the effects, and first work on only these clickers. I want to hear how those go with the kick drum. Right now they're too loud. So I can very easily get the sounds I want to hear in place together. And then I can bring all the other sounds in, do my rough gain staging and things like that, and have a really easy control instead of like, if all these channels are going straight out to the master and I decide that, you know, this whole section needs to get quieter, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna select all these tracks, channels, and like bring them all down like that? I mean, that's what you have to do unless you've got them grouped. Carolyn's here, what's up? So I love bus groups because they let me get all my sounds in one place and easily set up the volume. And the more you can get control of your volume in one place, the better your gain staging is gonna be because you're not afraid to make decisions. You don't have to change one thing and then go back and change another thing and then change one thing and then go back and change another, you know, drives you crazy. Likewise with the instrument group, what's in the instruments? Well, let's hear it. We got some buzz. We got some bounce. What's on 22 and 23? How do I find them? Oh, they're purple. Made them all purple. Well, that's cool. 22 and 23 are over here. Let's pick a part of the song where we can hear a couple of sounds at once. And this should be the purple color too. So right now my strategy is just identifying what is in the track, figuring out what goes together. You can see these two, 21 and 22, are sort of bouncing around. So I panned them wide a little bit. 20 is straight up, and maybe that doesn't need to be panned. And then 23 is like a little extra little thing at the end, which is like 21 and 22, but it's at the end. So right away, I want to tell you one thing. When I see a sound that has such a big dynamic range like track 23, that's going to get some compression on it. I can tell you that right now. It's really bouncing up and down a lot, which is cool. Like when you're in the mix, you'll hear it popping through, but I don't want it to get lost on the quiet parts. So one of my goals is going to be use some compression on 21, 22, 23 to get those leveled up with the kind of compression. You know what I should do? Let me get my camera window in here. Camera studio. Close that out. There, I hope now you can see me in the little tiny window. So when I'm doing things with my arms, you can see what I'm doing. When you've got this grinding, buzzing techno noise floor, like this track has a high noise floor where it's always on, like jigga, 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 jigga. That little bouncing bass sound is going to be like boop, 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 like coming in and out through it. But it's kind of going to get lost because it's not that loud of a sound. So this is a style of compression where I want to do, it's not compression to bring the peaks down. It's like compression to take the quieter parts and bring them up louder. So I want to get the threshold going to where I identify where the peaks are, and then hit up a lot of makeup gain. And let's get our little 8-bar loop going up here. You can even see that waveform is real bouncy, right? And I'm picking up here because I spent about an hour on the drums and everything else before that. So I'll go back and explain what did I do with my kick drum and my other stuff. And right now I'm at this part with this bass sound where, if I'm focusing on it, I'm like, yeah, I know it's there, but it's not coming through that loudly. And look at how in this little green VU meter after the glue compressor, there's a lot of black space at the top of that VU meter, which means there's a lot of headroom I could be using. So before I bring up the channel fader, I want to bring up the mix level, or bring up the level of the sound within that channel, the signal to noise ratio. This sound is the signal, and I want it as loud as possible inside that channel. And instead of using that volume control, let's have some fun with this. Let's use our auto filter volume. Get that up nice and loud. Not that much compression. Hit the soft clipper. And just experiment. What if I crank it up into the ceiling? Obviously that's too much, but this is one of those sounds that I think sounds good with a little bit of toasty crunch on top. So let's just get it so it's hitting up there. And in this situation, the distortion is going to bring it more to the front of your awareness in the mix and kind of draw attention to it, which is especially cool because look where we are in the track. We are back here at the end. So when that sound comes in at the end, we've been hearing this whole thing for 6 minutes. We're like, I'm done with this track. I'm ready for the next mix. And then this little sound comes in that's like, oot, oot, oot. Sounds like a little alarm from when you're, like an alarm that you hear from far away, like across the water or something. And now that I cranked up the volume on 23, I got to go back and listen to the track where 21 and 22 are in place and get those nearby the same level. All right. Make a nice long loop so I can mix without worrying that the sound is going to stop when I want to be hearing it. So a strategy here is on every channel, basically, get as much sound as you can inside the channel. These little VU meters are showing you the input volume of like the sound going through the channel. And then this fader is showing you the sound, the output level of how loud that whole sound is going out to the main mix. Kind of riding the line between where the distortion starts and stops. And key Command G, make a little effects rack, copy. Let's just get these two out of here. Delete, delete, paste, save. Hot little tip. I pull this fader down before I unmute. Why? Because I just added 10, 6, 16, 17 dB of gain, you don't want to add 17 dB of gain and then unmute your channel because you don't know what's going to come out and it might be really loud and it might hurt your ears or blast some sound waves through your amp, mess up your speakers. You don't want that to happen. So think of sound as like a hose that you don't want to get splashed with. If anybody has any questions about anything I'm doing or if I'm going too fast or you want to ask me why I did something, please type it on in. Unless I don't know the answer, in which case, don't ask me that question. So now I'm on 22. Want to make sure that sound's coming through nice and loud. It's balanced with 21. Let's pause on channel 20 there. And just take a reading. So if these two are coming up around -10, -9 on the instrument group, I click that peak meter to reset. What I want to do, these two together are coming up around -9 or whatever. So when we get to this ending part, I'm going to check the loudest part of that and see where that comes up on the meters to make sure that when we play through the whole track, 21, 22, and 23 are all going to come to the front of the mix roughly in the same presentation, if that makes sense. So, and that's a bit louder, so let's bring that down. And it's coming up around -10, -11. What I just did was I used my VU meter on the bass instruments group to check the levels right here at the loudest part of track 23, as well as checking how the group 21 and 22 sound when they're at the loud part. So instead of sitting in my house, pressing play on the track, listening, waiting for 6 minutes, and then asking, oh, was anything too loud? I don't have to ask that question. I don't have to wait all that time. I can just read the meters, check the sounds, and know for sure that within this little instrument group right here, everything is going to be balanced so that when I bring that into the main mix, anywhere I bring it up and down is going to make the whole group sound good. So that's why I'm using gain staging principles within this group to here, and then that instrument group over here compared to all these other ones. That's another level of gain staging between these three, and finally coming up to the master channel. It is so much easier to mix when you practice your stereo mixing with subgroups. Because remember, the master channel is just another subgroup. It's a bus. It's a bus group of everything. It's like the everything group. And if you can't make a good mix in the everything group, you're not going to be able to make... No, wait, let me say that again. If you can't make a good mix with your instrument group, you're not going to magically have an easy time making a good mix in your main everything group in the left-right mix. So you could think of using bus groups, subgroups, or track groups, or whatever you want to call them. Think of that as just like practice for mixing to your master channel. So you mix in stages. We get the instrument group working together, bring in channel 20, I can solo this, make sure these are all working together. And then I know when I bring that group into the whole mix, it'll be sounding good. But track 20 is kind of a tricky one because that's not just an all by itself sound that's going to be in the mix. Track 20 is kind of similar to the low end stuff that's happening here on track 2 and 1, right? So I got to think of track 20 as not a sound that I want to hear. I'm not going to turn this up as loud as I personally want it within this subgroup, because the sound and the vibe of 20, that crunchy, like grinding sound, is really going to get multiplied when we hear the low end. So what I want to do is listen to the whole mix first, get the low end in my ear, and then fade in track 20 to complement the low end that's already there. So we get enough of it, but this is not holding down our whole bass line or bass end. It's kind of like the fuzz on top. Hope that makes sense. And now I no longer know where I'm at, so let's check the original. Okay, that's the original, and then I think I'm still missing something. I think, yeah. Ooh, ambiance. Ooh. Okay, because when I hear the original, a lot more high frequency, a lot more stuff bouncing around. And if you see what I'm doing on the analog board, remember, in case you came in late, these bus groups from 28, 29, 30, 31, those four little buddies right there, are coming up analog right here. 28, 29, 30, and 31. Which is a lot of fun for me because I actually get to mix on the board and have one hand to just instantly do what I want, feel it, touch it, do it, even EQ it on the board a little bit. So that's why I do this, because I love playing around with sounds. So let's go into our effects bus. How do I get rid of all these sounds at one time? I mute my buses. If I want to mute the drums, do I have to go over here and be like, I'm going to mute every single one of these channels while you sit there and watch me? No, I don't have to mute those all one by one. I don't have to solo the effects bus. I just mute the buses I don't want to use. Go to the effects returns, because I have not checked out these 4 channels yet. So let's go right here. This is my raw process for examining a sound. I don't know what's going to be on there. Let's find out. And now, like, these are all these dark purple colors. I know that I'm only hearing one at a time, which is really helpful, because nothing is worse than dropping an EQ on a channel, working with it, you can't hear the difference, and then you realize you're hearing 3 other channels at the same time, which is why the EQ is not working. So that's what I'm doing. What's on 24? That's that high frequency bounce kind of thing I like. Some reverb. And I want to see what's happening with this sound. So on this effects return bus, I just dropped a master spectrum, a spectrum analyzer, to see how much low end is in this channel 24 right here. And I love spectrum analyzer because it shows you such a cool picture of what's in the sound. If you don't know spectrum, when you move your mouse around on the line, inside this little box, it shows you the exact frequency where the mouse is located. So if I put the mouse on that little mountain right there, 145 hertz, looks like about the lowest part of the sound that I want. I don't really want a reverb with a lot of bass on it, because that gets in the way. Shoot. Go to my collection of favorites. Drop an auto filter. Come on. And what did I say? 150, 150, 40, something like that. Gabor is here. What's happening? Zen, what's happening? So now I just put in enough of a high pass filter so that I don't have the low part of that reverb coming through. And there's more space in the low end. So basically, high pass filtering sounds makes more space for your kick drum to sound big without being cluttered. That's pretty much what it's all about. To be smart, I should check out track 24, examine the length of the song, and see if there's anything like really different happening. So where is 24? Here it is. And I can visually see that that's constant. I mean, it's quieter at the beginning. We're basically hearing the loudest part of track 24 right here. So I know nothing unexpected is going to come through. It's not like over here on these bass channels, it starts off really quiet, then it gets some loud bumps, and you got to be ready for that bouncy loudness, which is why I did all that compression. If you see something that's kind of like constant already, it really doesn't need to be compressed anymore, unless I want to turn it up louder, and I could use a compressor for just makeup gain. But so far I'm good with that. Let's go on to 25 and see what we got. Ambience. This sounds like a found sound recording of some location, right? So how is this being used in the original track? What does this mean for me? And what do I do with it? What do I do with this sound? Oh, Zan, you're welcome. Oh, Zan. Sorry, Zan. I was saying Zen, but Zan. But either way, all good. So this is a constant, like a drone. I'm talking about channel 25. Clearly you can see it's a flat line all the way across. I mean, it's not a flat line like a beep, but you know, it's not changing around a whole lot. And I don't immediately have an understanding of what this sound is going to do, because it feels like it's just going to get buried under everything else. But maybe in the breakdown part of the track, let's find out if we can hear this in the original. And I have the original here on track 32. I don't hear that sound. I don't know if you could hear that sound. So I'm going to make a creative decision right now and mute track 25, because I just don't understand what to do with it. Like, I mean, I know how to use it. I could turn it up loud, sidechain the crap out of it, and have it coming through as like a static layer. But I don't know. What was the creator's intent for that song? I mean, that sound. Just for practice, let's do that. So my favorite mix tool in audio effects, I'm gonna throw in high pass filter, compressor. But it's pretty much like a white noise, right? I mean, it's just doing the same thing like steadily. Oh, it's there to give the saturated feeling of being submerged by sound, like when you use lo-fi, but for techno, that's my opinion. I agree. Let's use the sound. Let's not be a total Steve and cut it out. But I don't want the whole bass end, because what is my Spectrum saying? That ambient sound is going all the way big down to 70 hertz, which is going to just take away power from the low end and make it harder to get the kick drum to be clear. So let us filter a bit. And it is doing some cool sound. Right now I want to make up with the filter drive. I want to make up all that gain in there, so I got a nice hot sound coming through this channel. Sidechain from the kick. And I want a quick, snappy sidechain that does compression and then gets off it. High ratio, short attack time. See how the gain reduction is like a quick gain reduction, then it lets go every time? If you don't filter it, that kick drum is like woof, woof, and it's going to hold the gain reduction down for so long that you're not really sidechaining, you're just turning the volume back down. So, quick little sidechain. Drew Lawless, what's happening? Good, now we can hear that the kick drum's happening on there. And make sure we're not losing our reverb sound. Now I'm starting to think, for the same reason we compress those synths, I want to compress this reverb, bring up some level on that. Kind of feeling lazy, so auto release, long attack time, so I don't kill the transients, maybe just 10-1. Threshold and makeup gain, the rule I like to say is use them together, so that as you're reducing the volume, you do some makeup, and the sound you're hearing too stays kind of constant. So compression on track 24. Don't need that much makeup gain, because we're doing, just trying to catch those peaks, bring the peaks down a little bit, so when I turn up the makeup gain, I get more of that background noise, or lower level background sound. All right, we dealt with 24, 25. What is on 26? It's called, oh, drum verb. Oh, I already must have listened to this, because it's routed to the drums bus. You see that? 24 and 25 are going to the effects returns, because they are like reverb delay kind of sounds. 26 is a drums bus, and it's not getting any sound from those guys, so it must be getting sound from all those single hits. Ticky ticky. Just for fun, what does the low end do in there? Not even really any low end to speak of. So we can high pass filter this up to about 250. And again, let's compress down our reverb. Let's get into our loop where we can hear all those sounds, right? Oh no. All right, one mix tip, if you want to really do a pro mix session with the client in the room, like with the band sitting on the couch behind you or the person you're working with, what you should do is prep first, drop some markers so that when you want to mix different sections like this, you can go to your markers, hit a loop, and go right into there and be like, now we're going to mix this main drop, or now we're going to mix the breakdown, and you don't have to fool around setting loop points like I'm doing right now. Just for speeding up your workflow. That's one prep thing you can do. So track 26. High pass filter up to 250. And let's compress it. I love glue compressor because it's so easy to set up, especially on drums. 30 millisecond long attack time so you don't crush your transients. Crank your threshold down. It's hard for me to get any response on that, so let's go to a auto filter. Add some drive so we have a healthier hot level coming through. Now in the glue, I can crank it down. And hear more of the reverb popping through the mix on drums. So now we're listening to the drums only on track 29. Here's the drum reverb, which is like way too loud because I turned it up. And then you fade that back in to make a nice blend of drums with drum verb. And I'm happy with that, so I can go back to our last effects channel, which is 27. Am I gonna unmute it right now? No, I'm not. I'm gonna bring it down. And what am I hearing? I'm hearing instruments. I wanna only hear track 27. Huh. It's a synth delay of some of the bass sounds and hi-hat in there. You hear that? Nice wide stereo field. And possibly some other sounds in there. So let's drop this little effects unit right there. I'm kind of just copying high pass filter and compressor there. Undo, volume up. The question here is, how much of the sound can I cut off without losing anything important? Hecom. Torben's here. What's going on? All right, Hecom, cool question. The question is, I see you have 2 reverb tracks. What's the difference in them, since I heard it's recommended to use the same reverb for everything to make it a whole? Answer number 1, it's not my track. I'm working with what the person sent me, so they use 2. But in my opinion, it's a really good idea to use more than one reverb. For the basic guideline, use a short reverb on your drums, so it like makes the drum sound bigger, but it doesn't get all washed out and overlapping on top of itself. And then use a longer reverb on your synths to put them into a space where like they kind of hang in the air and it feels full. So short reverb on drums, longer reverb on synths, then you have 2 different reverbs to play with, and you can make a cool sounding track. Nick, what's up? Why is auto filter not showing the spectrum? I don't think it ever does show spectrum, does it? Does your auto filter show spectrum? Dude, if we could double click on auto filter and get spectrum, that'd be cool, but I don't know if it's happening. So again, this strategy for compression on track 27 here is there's a lot of stuff bouncing around, and I like all those sounds, and I want to hear more of them without losing the quieter levels. So now I'm going to do a short release time so that when the compression hits, it bounces back down again. This is a strategy where I want to actually bring the peaks down and then have the whole level come up. So I can do some pretty hard compression. Thank you, glue. And I might even go shorter on the attack time to really catch those peaks, grab them. Oh, a trick question. Wait a minute, which developers are listening in? Can we get follow actions in the master scene? What am I talking about? Effects returns. Let's get all our effects returns working now and make sure that... Ow! Ow! I just did what I told you not to do. Sorry. Oh, these guys, are they really that quiet? See that? I need a ton of makeup gain on here. I'm going to do the gain staging differently. I'm going to go to my auto filter, add in like a bunch of gain from the auto filter. Then when I do my compression, see now the VU meter after auto filter is got a great signal to noise ratio. It's up to the top of the channel. Now when I go to use the glue compressor, the threshold, I don't need such a low threshold because it's going to start hitting the gain reduction circuit at a higher level. So I can actually do a little more compression, add in a little bit of makeup gain, because I want this sound to be at a nearby volume with these other two. So we got our ambiance, our first reverb, and now our echoes. And my plan here is that for everything coming into the effects bus on channel 31, I want these all to sound like one group that makes sense together. And there's a couple of little, like, a little bit of a piercing, a little bit of a sharp high-end kind of thing right over there. So now I'm going to double-click on the EQ8, grab band 6 for my mid-highs, and do a little sweep and cut. Wrong knob. Ow. Hear that? I don't want that. That's too much. Likewise, band 7. I don't want to use sends because I don't want to have return tracks where I have to minimize and maximize the side view to see the returns. I might still use returns for something else, and I received audio stems that are audio files, so I thought I'd just keep them in place together. If that answers your question, why not use sends? So what I just did on the effects returns group was I did a couple of EQ cuts at places that was too sharp, 900, 3K, something like that, so that we don't have too much high frequency coming in. Now I'm going to bring that bus down, unmute my lows, and get nothing, and unmute my lows. All right, let's go back to track 1, start all over again from the beginning. What is in this song? What am I going to do? Here's our raw kick drum file. Up top, blue channel. When you zoom in, you see kick drum with a nice long tail. And my first feeling was to reduce the tail on these kicks. And I thought maybe I should make that kick drum not as long. So if you do this trick with the beat transients, I turned on warp, set it to warp mode beats. I already got the tempo 138, so that's all good. Preserve transients, set the transients to play through and stop, not play through reversed. And then you can lower the transient duration, kind of like a slicer, and get a nice hard kick drum that doesn't have that rumble. So if I was making house music and this was the kick drum sample I had, I would want that shorter tail so it's like oof, 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 oof. So we could have a bass line, like a funky bass line, oof, boom, 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 boom. You know, whatever. Like, you know, house music, it's got a bass line separate from the kick drum. But techno, it's all one big thing. It's rumbling. And we want to have that whole sound in there. So I might still cut that kick drum a little bit shorter. Let's check out what's on track 2. It's called Rumble, and that is the original raw file, which to me sounds like the kick drum plus some extra stuff on there. So I think in the sound design world, Martin is the guy who made this track. I think Martin gave me an audio file of kick drum plus rumbling sound design. Yeah, you need that rumble for the techno, that's right. How do I know you need that rumble? Because the example audio has that rumble. Let's just feel the bass line. Where's the kick drum in here, right? What's around the kick drum? To me, this music sounds like it's inside a big cement room, and the reverb in the ceiling is like a metal ceiling, and it's just like whoa, 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 which is pretty much what you're the setting for a lot of techno parties. So I hear those bleeps are really loud. I hear a washy reverb that's just like I hear the kick drum coming through, but I actually don't feel the pulse of the kick drum as much as I want, like as a separate one pulse. And then I definitely hear that grinding bass. So I think what I want to do, this might be kind of fun. Let's use track 2 as the main bass line sound of the kick and everything in the low end, and then take the separate kick drum, make those short pulses, and pull it up under the other one, and maybe even sidechain it so we have like the big rumble with low frequency that's like almost like a drone, like a pulsing drone that's going woof, woof, makes your clothes vibrate. It makes the dust come out of the ceiling to give you black boogers. And then we're going to put the kick drum up through that. You need to feel your rib cage being mistreated. Yeah. I didn't even see you said that. I was thinking about the dust that shakes down. If you're like go like this on your computer after a techno party and you're like, oh my God, all that dust just went in my computer fan. And that is a nice low rumble. I want to show you Spectrum because I use Spectrum all the time. It's such a useful tool. I got my favorite preset that shows you the actual fast response time so you can see the peaks in the sound. And check that out. The loudest part is right down there at 45. We got a nice bump right there on 100, and then a slow taper of buzz and fuzz. And remember our friend on track 20. How do I hear only 20? I think if I solo 20, nope. I'm gonna have to do some wizardry here. Now I do have to mute everything because what I want to get is only that buzz group. And the reason I'm listening to this on 20 right now is because track 20 has some nice high frequency that's basically the same as the rumble sound. This is like the upper frequency of the rumble that I think is going to get some stereo width. So I'm not going to worry about on track 2. If I lose some of this high end or roll that down a little bit, not the end of the world. I am going to kick in a high pass filter down at about 45, so a steeper shape, just down to like 40, just so we don't get any crazy lower low end on there. And I'll give it a little resonant boost so we're not losing any low end. Okay, just for fun. Let me throw another filter on. And auto filter is fun. If I know that I only want to do one band of EQing, a lot of times I do use auto filter because it's a great EQ tool. Shallower slope, 12, not 24 dB per octave. And now what I'm doing is I'm thinking about that bass line. And I'm asking the question, do I need the high end on this sound? Or in other words, we have that ambient static layer, right? And we have the echo effect return that got recorded, the reverb effect return that got recorded, the channel 20 bass buzz. I'm counting the high frequency sounds that are in the drone dimension, and I want space for those. So just like we were cutting out bass to make room for the kick drum, I'm also going to just take down the high end static off channel 2 a little bit, just so that when I bring in those other frequencies, those other sounds with high mid frequencies, there isn't too much crazy overlap. But again, we do like overlap because combinations make the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, just like putting, oh, there's a lot of examples. I'm not going to go wild getting distracted on that. So I basically did a bandpass filter, by the way. You can call it that, 2 filters like that, high pass and low pass bandpass filter. Before I turn on this compressor, what is it doing? Where's the makeup gain? Gain is 3 dB. It's a side chain, so we're okay. I'm not going to get my head blasted if I pull it in. Ooh, it feels like channel 20 is missing an auto pan. All right, I don't want to forget that you said that, so channel 20 gets a special present from the auto pan department. Bypass though. Remind me to unbypass that, okay? Rumble. What are we going to do? We're going to get this working as the main low-end bass sound, and then pull up track 1 to make some heavy secondary kick coming through there. So before I even start to sidechain or do anything else, can I use this as a functioning kick drum low-end sound in this techno track? And question, can channel 20 only be in the mids, not go in the highs or the lows? Yeah, basically. I'm going to let it go in the high end a little bit more because it's kind of working that way. Let's unmute these other layers. So now for a basic gain staging lesson. I do a little thing called faders down, monitors up. I'm looking at my broadcast meter, which you can't see, but it's a little green VU meter for how loud it's going out to my broadcast. I'm gonna pull the low end down so it's just about to start clipping, and turn up my speakers. For me, that's my headphones. For you, maybe turn up your whatever you're listening on, because I want this kick drum to feel loud in my ears. And then bring up the other channels. And I'm gonna cheat and use some low end EQ on the kick drum. And here's where you get to get that magic melding of sounds. So I'm adding a little lows on that instrument bass. And it's working for me right now. I'm kind of feeling in the groove. And we still have all of track 1 to bring in as another whole layer of low end, or kick drum. So let's see what happens with that. I'm really feeling like track 1 needs to be shorter. Kick drum, hello? Why did that? Oh, because the volume's all the way down, right? I'm gonna do my transients trick. Right here. Nice, clear kick drum, clearly defined space in between each kick drum hit, right? Let's get some vibe on that. Yeah. Not you. Do you suddenly feel like track 2 is all rumble and no kick drum? After listening to that kick drum by itself, I feel like track 2 is just this mush of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I'm really glad we have track 1 available. Let's get the mix and bring in track 1. Now for the super fun part, let's dial in side chaining on 1 and 2 and hear that without track 20. So now we're only hearing low end only from here and drums. Side chain on. If I transpose the kick to the left, do you mean down? Kick channel. Yeah, I mean, you could go down one or two steps. Can you hear that on your end? I hear it and I like it better at 0, but it was a cool idea. And what am I doing? I'm trying to dial in side chaining to get a bunch of rumble and a bunch of clear kick drum coming through. And that's too much ducking. And I also have a bunch of effects on the mono bus. So let's undo those. And I'm in headphones right now, so I'm not feeling it the way I would get from my monitors. Yeah, right. By itself, channel 1 sounds like a cool kick. But when track 2 is in there, there's like a high doot doot. The interference makes something that I'm going to EQ over here. Which I already did. Took down that frequency. Exactly right there. And over here. Mud 158. Bye-bye. And then a little bit of bump where down by where the bass beat is. I don't know what is DT770s. I don't know what that is. And then I took down little highs out of that rumble zone. So for anybody out there who listens to techno, let me know how the low end sounds on your side. I'm not feeling a bazillion% confident mixing low end in headphones, but yeah, cool. But I know we're doing the right thing, so when this should transfer to bigger speakers, I hope. Need some low cut. Do you think some low cut on channel 2? That's sort of what I was feeling. Because I like on track 2 that ticka 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 ticka, that chugging rhythm. Yeah. Bass or something needs some low cut. Maybe like that. And for the secret weapon, let's kick in the drum bus. Right? Do I get a transient knob? Yeah. Where do you like the transients? Do you like it negative or do you like it positive? I kind of like it up here, but I want it to change too. So for me, I might automate this and have one part of the track where it's like focused on the lows and then bring up the focus on the mids. Not sure yet. Again, I want to compare layers together, so I'm going to check out the mid-range bass right here. That's what I mean by mid-range bass. And now I'm going to tweak the transient knob and see how the bass kick feels with that mid-range sound in there. Negative. I think I agree with you. I like it a little bit negative too. The negative setting definitely gives us what we call punchy. And the positive setting feels noisy, mid-range noisy. All right. But just slightly, right? Not totally negative, but just slightly. My headphones are crazy loud. I was like, it's overloading my brain. Cool, we're making some good progress through the mix here. We got a lot of channels in, and we've been listening to everything. I'm gonna start unmuting anything that has been ignored so far. And let's see if the mix comes together. 21 and 22 still might not be loud enough. 23 is at the end of the track. What is 26? Drum verb. Ooh, you hear that? Gonna bring that drum verb down a little bit. What is on our drums bus group? Nothing. Well, time for that to change. I don't want to do drum bus. I want to just do EQ8 and glue compressor. Because I don't really feel like I want to squash these drums to death. And EQ8. Gonna grab a band in the middle. Oh my god, dude. What does it mean when your push is blinking on and off? Anybody good with that? That's strange. $450. Don't need it. Yeah, it is kind of cool to hear a visual waveform. And standard drum setting for me, 30 millisecond attack, auto release. Let's go 4 to 1. That's all I want to do. Just a little bit. Yeah, I love glue too. You can totally crush it and still it sounds kind of natural sounding. That low end is nasty. I didn't really mix the effects returns channel. I dipped out a couple of bands of EQ where it was high frequency. So now the question I'm asking is, when I have the drums up and I bring in that effects return, how do I hear those delays on the drums? Oh man, I just want to... Oh my god. going to copy my glue compressor from the drums, drop it over here. So my push is freaking out. Auto release is kind of slow sometimes, yeah. Okay. All right. So right now we got a mix going on with the lows. We dealt with EQ and compression on the bus groups. Drum bus, a little EQ, a little compressor, instrument group. Ooh, we sidechained back to the kick drum. Did I know that? Forgot that part. Yep, I'll keep that. And the effects. So now let's go and listen to our original and my mix. I gotta boost this up now. Whoa. There's one sound that's a lot louder in the main mix, which is that echo. Hey, Eric Morales, what's happening? I'm really hearing these guys as pretty loud. So I'm gonna bring them down. Let me start with the lows. What I'm trying to do right now is I'm listening to the original on track 32, and I want to make my mix sound as much like it as I can, and then go up from there. So first, let's get lows. The peaky synth is kind of peaking out too much in the mix. Personal preference. No, I think you're right. We didn't quite get to adjusting that. Right now, I'm trying to adjust. I was noticing that in the original, the hi-hats that are like up, those were coming through very like prevalently, and I want that in my mix. So. Okay, now I gotta fade up my clickers. All right. Yeah, the original has that clap thing that now I think track 8 is a little too loud. That's that guy. And Personally, I like these guys a lot. So I want them up a little louder. And how does the synth group feel in the original? Let's start by getting our channel 20 bass in. Because I feel like we can have a lot of that, right? Oh, check this out. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I want to find the mid-range of channel 20 and really, really be like, this is coming out to get you. I want that scratchy part of channel 20 coming through. Okay, let me see some comments. Thanks for being with me in this mix. This is kind of fun. So, I wish I could get this comment thing bigger. So Zan got the hats are coming too loud now as well. Drop by 2 dB. Reverb tail is popping out a bit too much. Look how easy it is to hear this one by one. Single hits. Hi-hats. That sound could even use a little more work, but okay. And way too loud delay reverb on the snare hit. That's the snare drum by itself. Such a little baby snare. So if I take that snare up a little bit and that drum verb is going to come down. I agree with all those suggestions. And I do like that channel 20 bass line up nice and loud. So now let's go to our other bass sounds and bring those in. So they're not poking through so much. Torben, you're talking about track 8? It's too loud? Yeah, that fills up a ton of space, doesn't it? When it's back down like that, it just feels like it's part of the ambience. Yeah, track 8. What about track 9, dude? Did we even hear track 9 today? Where are you? Oh, I like that. Oh, track 9 is okay, I gotcha. Yeah. We're looking at group reverse effects on 13. All these little pals over here. Before the video I went through and you can see I just dropped a high pass filter on and basically identified where each sound was happening. Blue compressor on the group. And then I didn't level mix them very much at all. But I kind of like how that came through super loud and was like, oh my god. So let's check that build up again. How does that sound on your end? Is that like crazy loud? I feel like it's kind of good. Yeah, those hi-hats that came in that ride right here. Track 9 needs more delay, you think? Oh, and we got the wider plug on. Okay. Is everybody in? Is everything unmuted? Whose idea was autopan? How do you describe how you want the autopan? Because I'm gonna do slow, but Stefan, okay, tell me what you want to do with autopan. I'm hearing it like this, like boom, 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 boom. Like on a 1-bar deal, but what do you... Okay, does that count as slow and steady? Wow, my mix is totally different right now. Naked snare is too loud. Something like that. All right. I think I'm getting there. Do you have any other suggestions? Let me know what you're hearing, imagining, feeling, thinking, or what you want to do. Somebody asked me a question about routing, so I wanted to get back to that. I think it was Torben. Did you route all the channels out to your analog mixer and back to the sound card? No, this is such a cool mixer because it has an SD card over here. So I can record a 24-bit mix off the master bus of this and get a finished pre-master track. When I say pre-master, it means my master mix, I want my levels below the top of this so I still have room for mastering. And if I want to do a multi-track mix, I can go like this, activate all these channels, and then everything that's blinking red gets recorded as a individual audio stem. So my mono low group, my drums group, my instrument group, these are stereo, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then 12 is mono. So I could come out with 5 stems to remix levels later if like I go to a studio with a big subwoofer and I want to do it not in headphones on my video. And I can also get a stereo mix off the master channel, which is super cool. And for anybody who came in late, this is how we do that. I've got all the groups assigned with colors going to output. So the two dark blue ones go into the mono sub bus. Light blue go into drums bus. Inside my groups, like single hits, all these ones right here are going to the single hits channel, which goes to the drum bus. Reverse effects, drum bus, and then all those are going to the reverse effects group. So when I minimize these groups, don't tell me about iCloud, dude. Not interested. So when I go and minimize all these groups, I've got like all these little stereo pairs, like these three stereo pairs are going over to this big bus. And all along the way, I'm doing gain staging, measuring, metering, getting the nice signal to noise ratio, and keeping it together so that when I hear track 29, all the drums sound good. When I hear 28, the low end all sounds good. And in 30, all these purple ones that are first individual channels sent to this group for a little bit of wider and glue compressor. And then that goes to instrument bus. And then for the magical grand finale, I go to the external out. And this is all on the Model 24, which is the name of this board. But check that out, 24 ins and 22 outs. Like if you wanted to have 24 channels of I/O, you'd have to buy like 3 8-channel interfaces or a 16 plus 8 or a 24, and then buy all the audio cables and then have an analog mixer and do all the in-out that way and have a separate recorder. I was like, no way. I saw this Tascam board come out. I could not believe it. It was such an interesting combination of recording, a USB audio interface, and multi-track, multi-channel capability. So I love this thing. Totally cool. What I'm going to do with it is basically play through and print this mix. Let's listen to it from the beginning. I still haven't really heard our track 25 ambience in play. Not sure if that's going to be part of our world in this mix or what it's going to do. But after I finish this live video, what I'm going to do is take off my headphones, go for a little walk, get my ears back to normal, turn on my speakers, and check the mix, run through it, make sure the low end is all feeling good, get my groove on, stand up, mix, feel it like, feel like in your body, the music, and then hit this little record button over here and get the whole mix onto SD card with a stereo printed mix that I can share back to Martin, do mastering on it, do whatever. So let me know what you think. If you have any questions, what you want to talk about. And I should probably wrap it up. I'm not sure how long I've been on. 8:45, about an hour and 15. That's a pretty good amount of time. Yeah, I'm happy with my mix because it feels wider, brighter, the brightness is there. The low end has clarity and bump. And it's pretty faithful to the original, so I feel like the client is going to be happy. And that's studio language. This is just a friend of mine. It's a friendly mix. So I'm happy that the person who made the track is going to feel like I did a good job to take care of their music and not be like, oh, I'm going to remix it and put like a Taylor Swift vocal on top, or some crazy shit like that. Do I ever use the DSP? Why, yes, my friend, I do use the DSP. Hey, you doing? This is that chorus effect built into the board that I was running beats through, so now it's on my voice. Check this out on drums. Like a little bit of a flutter. And this board has some cool effects. I like, I was playing around with the reverb. So when we were talking about reverbs before, having a short reverb on drums and a longer reverb on synths, what does this sound like with long reverb on the instrument group? There's dry. And there's that long reverb on the instrument groups. Don't forget to turn off the auto pan. Why? I thought that was going to be... Isn't the auto pan going to be on for the whole track? Or should I dial it back? Or is it just like... Should we have this bass sound be mono and only do auto pan at some part of the track? How about right here? And I want to So, oops, bonk, sorry. I said sorry to my mic. Where is track 20? It's in here. And here's our bass track. And here's our auto pan. Let's turn on automation. Not seeing it yet. Yes, I am. Start off. Auto pan on. Now let's go up to 100%. What drop sound? The mic drop sound? Yeah, cool. So track 20 is gonna have auto pan during the breakdown here. And it's gonna last until where exactly? Oh, check it out. The audio for track 20 stops right here, so that's a perfect place to turn off the auto pan. Yeah, man. Now we're getting into producer world where I'm kind of changing stuff up. And technically, that one could probably be right there. Auto pan. Everything cool? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to push up the low group right now. Get a little more of that kick drum. Yeah, I'm really curious how this low end is going to feel when I get my speakers on, so. Wow. That's really pretty close. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. But I like my drums, I like my mix better. Let me get out of Ableton. Let me save Ableton. Ooh, I'm running warm. Back to camera land. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me tonight doing this mix. I had a super good time doing this. This is the kind of thing I love to play with, is a track where the arrangement's done, the mixing is pretty well in line, and I just need to do a couple little things to like identify what are the most important sounds, what makes the track move, what do we connect to emotionally in it, and how do we put those sounds in place so that that feeling connects through us into the audience and all that. So that's what it's all about, is making a track into the best it can be to sound right with whatever else is happening in the music. Yeah, I gotta stop. If I keep listening to this, we're gonna be on here all night. Stefan, thank you. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Torben, thanks for hanging out. Zan, awesome job. Nice, thank you. Reverb, I guess, yeah. Yeah, this was super fun. I'll make a print of this mix and see if we can share it in the track feedback group for this week. And other than that, tomorrow I have another meeting at noon with some stuff for locally teaching in a training program, which is kind of cool. So I'm not going to be on at noon tomorrow, but I'll definitely be on video either in the morning or in the afternoon or evening with some more of these mixings. Actually, I got another set of stems from somebody else, so I have another track to mix. And have a nice walk. Thank you. And for all you guys who are watching, and women, girls, whoever, you're totally invited to send me a folder of audio stems. Label the stems with what the sound is, the BPM, and your name so that I know what the folder is. And I'd be happy to do a mix session just like this. Pull it in, do a little bit. I spent about 2-3 hours on this. And it's a really great way to show how to approach a mix, how to do the basics of gain staging. I mean, we could basically do a great mix with high pass filter, volume, and pan. Just like on the old boards where you've got a bass EQ, pan, and volume. Really, like, presenting the sounds to be awesome is not that much more complicated than that. When you get into EQ8 and, you know, auto pan and stuff, like, yeah, that's fun. You can make all kinds of cool sound design. But if somebody gives you the stems of audio of a song that's finished and it's a well-done song that has a beginning and a middle and an end, you can really do an amazing mix with just putting the volume in the right place, a little bit of high-pass filter to cut the lows out of the crap, and then some pan position, and you're good. All right, yep, see you next time. Cool. See you in the morning, y'all, or tomorrow, or whatever the hell day it is. Who knows what day it is?